And joining us live this evening, hours before the Prime Minister lands in London, is Harshvardhan Shringla, former Foreign Secretary, former Ambassador of India to the United States and a new Member of Parliament in the Rajya Sabha. Mr. Shringla, good to have you. Thank you very much for your time here on India Matters. The Prime Minister, like I said, Mr. Shringla, as you well know, will be in London for a historic visit. All eyes on that big trade deal. But I did want to start by talking about the second port of call of his visit, which is Maldives, which over the last couple of years, as you well know, has been, in the news for good and bad reasons. There has been friction with that country. An election in 2023 brought that new government to power on an India out kind of campaign. There have been other sort of fault lines between the two since then. And then just a few months later, things seem to be hunky-dory again. Can you explain this? How did this happen, sir?
Oh, you're right, Shiv. It's been a remarkable turnaround in relations with an important and close neighbor of ours, the Maldives. You're also right in saying that this is a government that came to power on an electoral plank of an India out policy. But a year in government has brought them, face to face with reality, with the fact that, when you confront the economic and other challenges before you, there are not too many countries that are willing to come to your support. Now, India is a country that has, practiced a policy of human-centric globalization, or Prime Minister Modi says, working for the global common good. And we start with our neighborhood. We have been very supportive of all our neighbors, whether it is vaccines during COVID or, support a country like Maldives when it lacked drinking water. We provided water. Wherever they need support, we are there to support them. And in this particular instance, I think they've had, a very high number of loans to repay. And by our, I think rolling over some of these loans, being a little considerate in terms of our own, dealing with the debt that Maldives has with us, I think they were able to tide over their economic, I would say, dilemma, because they would have otherwise become indebted. In other words, you once you're indebted as a country, then your ratings sort of plummet, and then borrowing becomes very difficult, and your economy faces its consequences. So I think there is a realization that India is a country that is a sort of a partner that you can rely on, you can count on. And I think that is what has made the critical difference between, the government that came in 1.5 years ago and today, the government that is specially inviting Prime Minister Modi as the guest of honor to their 60th Independence Day celebrations.
Indeed.
I think it's a remarkable turnaround.
And Mr. Shringla, there were no shortage of provocations, starting with the whole India Out campaign itself, to ministers taking pot shots at the Prime Minister. We remember that very, unsavory episode that took place last year. It seems that India has not resorted to any knee-jerk reactions, has been very patient strategically, been the bigger person, as it were, in the room. Is that what diplomacy is all about when it comes to things like this? Because the provocations came thick and fast from the highest levels of government in Maldives, sir.
No, absolutely. I think this is a hallmark of our policy, to be steady and consistent, to not be reactive, despite some of the pressures that come from, outfits like the media and the social media in particular. I think we have to be able to play this game, in a very steady manner. And that's what Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy is all about, dealing with your neighbors, your partners from a long-term perspective. You take some of the highs and lows, but the important thing is that you maintain the consistency of relationship. You do not allow relations to, sink beyond a point, and you try and make sure that your closest partners are with you to the extent that you can. That may not happen overnight, but that can happen in the medium to long term if you play the game correctly. And I think we have done precisely that. And I do recall that, I had the opportunity to visit Maldives a few months ago, and I called on President Muizu, and he told me how much he was looking forward to Prime Minister Modi's visit. I mean, that was a very high point, I think, in the Maldivian foreign policy outlook. And I think this is going to be a remarkable visit, a remarkable turnaround, and a very, very good example of how you can reset ties, with your important partners. And I think this is also a victory for Indian diplomacy when the Prime Minister goes both to the UK and to the Maldives.
Mr. Shringla, my third question to you is, in the domestic political conversation, the critics of the government would say that regional foreign policy has been a mixed bag, and there have been setbacks to India, etc. These principles that we're talking about, which have applied to Maldives, certainly to Sri Lanka as well, and some other countries, would you say they apply to the other countries as well? It's work in progress, and there are always these ups and downs?
Absolutely. We live in very tumultuous times.
Yeah.
This sort of great power rivalry, has also descended in our own neighborhood. We have seen a great deal of activism on the part of our, of some of the larger powers in our neighborhood. But also, I think, economic difficulties have exacerbated certain situations. In all of this, I think, we have to make sure that we stay the course.
Yes.
Countries have to understand that, we are a large neighbor, but nonetheless a reliable, trustworthy, and stable partner when it comes to their own concerns and their own developmental aspirations. And we have done that with countries. I mean, Sri Lanka, you mentioned, is another, illustration of how we have turned around a relationship that seemed to be also having its own issues. But today, I think that relationship is a very, very positive one with a new government in place. And similarly, I think, that same policy can produce very good results in Bangladesh and Nepal.
Yeah.
With all of our other important neighbors. We will need to work on those relationships. We will need to nurture them. And I have no doubt that the policy that has seen successes in our immediate neighborhood will also apply to our other neighbors. And I think, it's important for our public, your viewers, to understand that foreign policy is not a short-term game. It is a game that you play for the medium and long term. A country of our size and aspiring global power has to be in as a mature, and stable partner, not one that is reacting consistently to minor provocations that you will be subject to, because that's the nature of politics in these countries. But you have to stay the course.
It's, speaking of provocations, the big elephant in the room, if we zoom out a little further, Mr. Shringla, of course, is the United States and the Trump administration. Would these principles of, patience, not reacting in a knee-jerk manner, waiting it out, maturity from a diplomatic perspective, those are things that also hold in India in very good stead in these kind of transitioning times between India and the United States as well?
Yeah, absolutely. These are, times of great amount of global stress and uncertainty. And I think, again, we should look at things from a slightly longer term perspective. Yeah. There are ups and downs. President Trump has made some very, very positive comments. I mean, he speaks very positively about India and Prime Minister Modi, always. But he also makes certain comments that I think are of concern to, especially, to those who are looking at foreign policy from, not from a everyday perspective, but from a reactionary perspective. And I can understand their, concerns and apprehensions. But I do believe that the relationship between India and the United States is a comprehensive global strategic partnership. It has taken 25 years to reach a stage where it is multifaceted across the board. We are working in practically every domain in a very close cooperation with the United States. Much of that achievement can be attributed to Prime Minister Modi and President Trump.
Yes.
And I think we will have to see it from that perspective. There is a mutuality of interest that cannot be changed.
Final question on a more personal level, Mr. Shringla, is, you've spent your career on the front lines of India's amazing diplomatic machine. You've just begun your new innings in Parliament, which is a very different kind of battlefield. Are you looking forward to that?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a very exciting new phase in my life. But from a certain perspective, when you are in the government, you are already in public service.
Yes.
I keep telling my younger colleagues that when you join, government, then you have to remember that you have committed yourself to a life of public service. You're serving the people.
Yes.
You're not an administrator. You're not someone who is deciding the fate of people. What you're doing is facilitating. You're helping and you're serving the interests of the people of our country, and that's what I think I would look forward to continue doing after 40 years in government. That experience, I believe, will help me, will enable me to contribute
Yes.
in a manner that can serve the interests of our country. And I do believe that there is a lot that can be done, and I think we have a very, very good situation where India really is making enormous progress economically, in every field. But it's important to ensure that we strive for sustainable and equitable and inclusive development. And under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, we make sure that our country continues to get the fruits of development, including those portions,
Yes.
like my own area in Eastern India, where development has not been as I would say strong as other parts of our country. We need to make sure that there is more there is a more symmetric level of development, and whatever I can do in that regard to correct that imbalance, I will work in that endeavor.
Thank you very much, Harshvardhan Shringla. It's a pleasure always to hear your voice and your wisdom here on India Matters. We look forward to watching you and hearing you in Parliament. All the very best, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you.